right, I believe it's the right time to start the webinar. So once again, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the webinar called Kickstarting Clean Heat, Strategies for Cities New to District Heating. My name is Laura Junasova. I'm a Senior Project Officer at Euroheat & Power, and it's my pleasure to guide you through today's session. So today's webinar is organized as part of the EU-funded project called Support DHC, which aims to support district heating and cooling operators in addressing key challenges on the path to achieving Europe's 2050 carbon neutrality goal. And the project supports the operators with integration of low-grade renewables and waste heat sources, as well as development of investment plans. And in the Support DHC project, we specifically support 11 district heating and cooling operators from 6 countries, which are Austria, Germany, Italy, Lithuania, Poland, and Ukraine. However, we are committed to sharing knowledge more broadly across Europe. And because of district heating and cooling development varies from country to country, we decided to organize 2 dedicated webinars. So the first one, which is this one, focuses rather on countries with lower district heating and cooling penetration, but growing ambition to develop new networks. And the second webinar, which will take place on 15th of December, will rather focus on decarbonization and modernization of existing district heating and cooling networks. And today's training webinar is tailored to local authorities, district heating and cooling operators, energy agencies, public planners, and any other relevant stakeholders in countries where district heating is not yet widespread, but where interest in clean, reliable, and affordable heating solutions is rapidly increasing. And therefore, our goal for today is to provide you with some essential steps needed when launching or scaling up district heating systems. So to do this, we structure the webinar around 4 building blocks for kickstarting district heating and cooling: how to organize district heating at the local level, how to design future-proof low-temperature systems, how to finance district heating and cooling infrastructure, and how to communicate effectively and build public acceptance. So therefore, I am very glad to welcome here today our 4 great speakers who will cover these topics: Jan Wolter, Henrik Gatt, Gabriela Pesce, and Kadri Inselberg. So many thanks for joining us today. And before we start the webinar, I just wanted to mention a few notes. So the webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be published on the Euroheat & Power's YouTube channel, as well as in the Support DHC Replication Hub, which is a page that is a repository of many useful reports and tools if you want to decarbonize your district heating and cooling systems. And you can find it on www.replicationhub.supportdhc.eu. And also one more note for our online participants. If you have any question, you can submit your question using the Q&A box, and we will address the questions at the end of the webinar. All right, so that would be it for the introduction, and we will now go to our first topic, which focuses on how to organize DHC locally, since this is frequently the most significant early obstacle for cities. And Jan Wolter will explain how municipalities can structure the process of developing DHC. And just to introduce Jan, Jan has over a decade of experience supporting municipalities on climate mitigation, energy policy, and district heating at the German Institute of Urban Affairs. And since 2024, he has been working as an external expert for AGFS Research and Development Department and contributing to German's National Knowledge Center for Municipal Heat Planning. So Jan, thank you very much for joining, and let's start. First things first, so how to organize district heating and cooling locally.
Yeah, thank you very much for the invitation also. Everybody can hear me good, I think. Cool, okay. Well, yeah, I want to even go one step back, you could say. So thinking from the perspective of a newcomer municipality, and this municipality perhaps doesn't know if it needs DHC or even what DHC is. Oh, okay. So the perspective is, in a way, which I want to take now, is how to start with the heating transition overall. And so a municipality who's really very, very new coming, they don't have a clue. And so I want to start with that, and I want to give kind of two advices. So to say for this municipality, please, a, a big advice is look for the situation in your municipality, look very good at it, do municipal heat planning. So I will talk a little bit on that. And then afterwards, a bit less because 10 minutes are short, on the question of, okay, we don't even have DHC here yet, but we will need it then. So who could be the operator for us? So I just head in with the issue of municipal heat planning. And there we see it's a planning where the aim is really a master planning for the whole municipality, concerning the whole issues of heating and cooling. And the municipality, it's the main actor here. It's really the decision maker. But there are many stakeholders needed to be involved, of course. And the main results are spatial data, potentials, renewable potentials. How can we do the change from fossils to renewables? And then we really look, especially resolved in the areas of the municipality, and we look for the suitability overall of central or decentral supply. So here we will see also, do we need DHC? Because central to supply in the end, it will be DHC because we don't really have any other options. Don't want to go into that now, right now. Sorry for my voice. I was just ill recently and I'm just recovering. So I put one more point here, which to me is really important. So municipal heat planning, the municipality needs to really start a process where all people who need to be involved get involved, internal and external to the municipality, and they get really a common picture what they want to do. So apart from the analytical data, this to me is really a very, very crucial point. And often this point is forgotten in municipal heat planning, or not forgotten, but really it not given the importance it needs. So I would just quickly go through the different 4 different steps of municipal heat planning. So the first step is to look what is there. So inventory analysis are looking at the starting situation. You look like what quality do the buildings have energetically? Do we have gas or not? What infrastructure do we have? Do we have some little DHC here or there? And the second step is to look what's really the potential of renewable energies. And this step is like analytically, it's the same step for each municipality. And perhaps I need to say that in almost all cases, a municipality needs an external partner who helps the municipality getting the data together, analyzing the data and everything. So that's important to have a partner here. But then in this second step, for each municipality, the outcome is really very different. Like in one municipality, you have perhaps a big sea, or you have any water. So in other municipalities, you have other situations. So you will have very, very different outcome. What are the potentials in your municipality? And third, that's in a way also to many, it's new in a way, because you take kind of a target picture. So you don't say, okay, the next steps will be this. You do that also, but you really look from the final situation you want to reach. For example, in Germany, the government says in 2045 latest, you should be 100% renewable. So the final picture will be, if the municipality doesn't have an earlier date, 2045. And then you see, how can I get with all my potentials to the target picture, 100% renewable. And then you do kind of a backcasting. You look from there backwards. You say, okay, 5 years earlier, what will I have to have reached 10 years earlier and so on till today? And then, of course, the measures you develop out of it, which are like sooner. They are, of course, you look at them more and more exactly, but the later measures, you also say, okay, we need this, 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 this. And by that, we are with step number 4, with the heat transition roadmap or the implementation strategy, because then we say, okay, we have a roadmap now. We have now an idea where to go, which steps to finally manage this really complicated and important issue. Okay, more on that, of course, when we have the discussion part. A bit shorter, I will say some words on finding an operator, and I have some more slides you can get afterwards on that issue. So in the beginning, it's important to say there are like many different options, like saying you don't have any operator yet. You will have the possibility to think really a bit on it. What's your way to do it? So there are municipal owned operators. There are non-profit type company operators. Like in Denmark, like that's the law. Every company is non-profit type, but in Germany, for example, it's all over the place, different. Like there are some cooperatives in Germany doing it. And then of course there are many private profit-oriented energy utilities. And there can be good reason also to choose if you find someone who does it for this option. And of course, then there are mixed types like public-private partnership or a cooperative where the municipality, for example, is one important member. And all the different, let's say, types you may choose, they have different pros and cons. Like, for example, a municipality-owned operator, it can get cheap money from the banks. So actually, you look, what is your individual starting situation? Where are you? What do you have there already? What are the stakeholders doing? What are they willing to do? So what are your resources? And also, of course, what are your values? And so it's a good idea to really, as a newcomer municipality, think about all these things. Look what other people are doing already, other municipalities are doing, and then go for a decision and launch in that area. So perhaps you asked yourself, why did you put first things first? And here I have kind of an not an exclamation mark, but a question mark. And well, in an ideal world, you would have first the municipal heating planning. Then you would know, okay, where do we need DHC in our municipality? And then you would say, okay, which operator can I have? And once you have built up this one or founded it, perhaps you do your first feasibility study, and you see that will take years till you start to build the first net. And we don't have that time really. So I would really ask you to think about going, instead of consecutively, into a simultaneous modus to speed up the process enormously by that. Because really, when you just start with the municipal heat planning, normally you have like a first impression where DHC is highly needed. So normally you have place, okay, this area, yeah, we really, really need it. So you know, okay, we do need DHC. And so really in the beginning of municipal heat planning, and that will take at least for a small municipality a year to do all that. Even in the beginning, you have like more or less the same possibilities to think about these questions, which operator is the right one. So go for this in the beginning, not afterwards. Just start with it. And then once you have this clearer, depends on the municipality, how clear it needs to be, if the operator needs to be there already or not, can be a bit different, but then you also already can go for the first feasibility study to then, speed up the process really enormously. So already in the summary. So in that case, it's a really, really good idea to get really into the issue of municipal heat planning, to really get the possibility to steer the heat transitions as municipality from fossils to renewables. Yes, it is quite a big job. I can understand if you are, well, hesitant or even afraid. But still, I don't know anybody else who can do it as a municipality. The municipality is really needed for the job, but because no one else really stands for all the people living in your municipality, but the municipality itself. So I would really encourage the municipality to go for that issue. And good news is that there are many positive economic and also social effects we can study in places where the heat transition with a bit of DHC often needed is really going on. So there are regional value creation effects which keep the money in the region, which is really good. And also socially there's binding people. It can bind people together. So the issue of DHC, it should be actively taken on board and steered by the municipality. And there's no right way of building up DHC. There's no right operator or wrong kind of operator you can build up, but you can see that there are many right ways, and it's important to look on it and think about it. What is my right way to kind of? So finally, I said that already also, building up a knowledge and building up a living process, a stakeholder process, is of vital importance. And the municipality needs to be right in the middle of the spider net, get the knowledge together, get the people together, and see what's possible to do. So I wish you a lot of luck for that. And I think you're not alone. There are many going that way right now. And yeah, I'll be here for the discussion part later. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Jan. Yeah, I think it was a very practical presentation. So thank you so much for sharing this with us. And once a city knows how to organize district heating and cooling, the next question could be what kind of system to build. And therefore, we will jump into the next presentation, and we will hear from our second speaker, Henrik Gatt, who has been a senior lecturer in energy technology at Halmstad University since 2020. He previously spent 14 years working in various district heating and energy system roles, and he holds a PhD in energy science from Lund University. And today, Henrik will explain the benefits and constraints of low-temperature district heating and why starting with low temperatures from the beginning makes the later integration of renewables and waste heat much easier. So please, Henrik, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Laura. Oh, yes, I will start with the benefits for low system temperature. This is not only valid for fourth generation district heating, but for any district heating systems. And when you look at that, you have to look for benefits for the supply or for the return, because there are different benefits depending on you lower the supply temperature or if you're lowering the return temperature. So for the supply temperature, we have increased possibility to use excess heat or residual heat. We have increased output of electricity in CHP, increased COP in heat pumps, and reduced heat losses for distribution losses. And if you instead focusing on the return temperature, we also have increased possibility for residual heat, increased efficiency in flow gas condensation, increased boiler efficiency, increased efficiencies in heat storages, and increased capacity in the network. When it comes to residual heat or excess heat, that is beneficial whether you decrease the supply or the return temperature, and that is perhaps the most important benefit when you go to fourth generation, and that is that we want to leave a a district heating system where we use boilers to produce heat and rather use excess heat from other processes. You cannot talk about fourth generation without showing this diagram. I think most of you, if you're into district heating, have seen this several times. It's the definition papers of different kind of different generations of district heating, where the most important issue is the supply temperatures, where we go from steam systems for first generation to fourth generation, where we have a supply of about 50-60 degrees. And it's very obvious that we were talking about benefits and constraints, and the constraint for the older system is that the option for heat sources is much lower. That is the main benefit for lower temperature, is that you can use a lot of different heat sources. That makes also the system more resilient for the future if there are coming new heat sources. We can see this paper was written about 10 years ago, and I have now added on the right-hand side heat sources that has been discussed perhaps more frequently in the latest years, like electrolyzers, fuel cells, CCS plants, and data centers to be heat sources for district heating networks. And by having a lower supply temperature in the networks, you are able to use or utilize excess heat much more than you are able to in the pulse system. The pulse system from first to third generation, they were based that we had fossil fuels for supply. But as Jan said, it's not always very easy to, I always click on this wrong. It's not always very easy to implement, but so I will show you two implementations, two projects where I have participated to show that this is really doable. It's not difficult. It might seem difficult, but it's not that. This is Brunnshög in Lund, city in south of Sweden, where they built an entire new part of the city. They had access to heat from two research facilities, Max 4 and ESS. It is particle accelerators that belongs to the university in Lund. And they have a lot of low-grade heat. So they decided to build a network in this part as a low-temperature district heating system. And this is one of the buildings that was part of this project called Explorion, and we have introduced district heating substation in each flat, and it was called a 3-pipe system, and that means that each flat is supplied by 3 pipes. It's heating supply, heating return, and domestic cold water, and then you have a heat exchanger for this domestic hot water in each flat. Normally you have 1 pipe with domestic hot water and also domestic hot water return to keep the domestic hot water hot in the entire circuit. What was typical, I would say, is that when they did the installation, the contractors and the people who installed this, they were not used to this new technology, and that meant that even though an instruction, they didn't follow the instructions. They just put in the substations, and the result, as you can see on the left side of the diagram, is very high return temperatures. But then we went into each flat to make a very simple adjustment for the domestic hot water heat exchanger, and we got the return temperature down to below 30 degrees. I think it took like 5-10 minutes in each flat. The problem, though, was that the substations were only available through or accessible from inside the flats. We had to go into each flat. That was time consuming. Another system is low temperature system is in Halmstad, where I sit, Ranagård, also a new part of the city. And then we have another solution that is also called the three-pipe solution, but the three pipes are outside the building and not inside the building. And that's a system solution developed here in the university. There we have a supply temperature of 65 degrees, and then there are that is supplied to the district heating substations. I'm sorry, this is in Swedish, I realize now. But then there are also circulation to keep the service pipe and the network hot during the summer period when there are no heating demands, so that you can have a return temperature of about 25 degrees. And we are at the later part of the testing period right now, and we will reach perhaps not 25, but at least under 27 degrees for in total 55 buildings. Well, I think most of you know that Sweden is quite mature when it's come to district heating. We have a large penetration of district heating. About 60% of all building heating is from district heating. But that doesn't mean that these systems exist or different kind of system exist in other countries. I have two examples. It comes from a report that you can find the link here that we wrote here. We finished it last year, where there are a lot of 70 different possibilities for new district heating. And one is here from France, where you have a district heating system based on geothermal, where there are actually four different supply temperatures. So the return temperature from one building can be the supply temperature for another building. And you can see that temperature levels are all very low, and some are really, really low. And the total return temperature is 32 degrees. That I right now think is a bit high, since we reach like 25, 27. And we also have from this report, this is a building in Frankfurt that was just finished, I think is just the latest years. And they have the same solution that we had in Lund, with three-pipe system for 400 flats with its own substations. So there are, sometimes I think that people think that fourth generation district heating is some kind of something for the future, but it's not. It's here, and it's in operation, and it's possible to go and visit and look for yourself that it works. But we have some lessons, or I have learned some lessons, and that is that these from both these sites in Lund and in Halmstad, we can see that there were clear instructions of how it should be done and everything. But there is a lot of people involved in different organizations. So you must, as I think it's the district heating operator, must be involved in the process for all the way from design to commissioning. Also with subcontractors, consultants, everybody that is involved, because people tend to do as they did the last time. And if they didn't build fourth generation district heating, they will build third generation district heating. When we have high temperatures, we have a higher acceptance for faults or for settings that is not correct. So it's very important when you have these systems that you follow up the operation of the customers. And that means also that you need to have access to the settings in the building. You don't need it by yourself, but you can have it through a house or the house owners, technicians or whatever. That is very common anyway in Sweden, but I think you have to be more active when it comes to how the buildings are operated. A very important lesson from Lund was that if you have substations in flats, they should be accessible from outside the flats. And one thing I think, it's not necessary, but I think you should at least think that perhaps these substations should be owned of the DH operator. It gives them a natural access to the substations, and thereby also can see in the secondary systems. So to summarize, there are only benefits of having low temperature district heatings, and it decreases the constraints because of that you have much more you have much more heat sources available, and heat sources at a much lower cost, and it make you decrease the risk for the future. But you have to be more engaged in the customer. That I think can only be good, because normally if you have a lot of contact with your customers, you have a better customer relation, and probably are able to sell other things than just kilowatt hours, different kind of services, perhaps for the buildings or whatever you can think of. By that, I thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Henrik, for your presentation, and also for including these practical examples. It's always good to hear about some real case studies, so many thanks. And we will now continue with the third topic, because even with the right organization and right technical concept, financing remains one of the biggest barriers for emerging markets. And for that reason, Gabriela will cover EU and national funding opportunities, public-private partnerships, and de-risking mechanisms. And Gabriela Pesce is a Director of Innovation and Sustainable Finance at Euroheat and Power. He has a background in international relations and diplomatic studies, and he has extensive experience with EU-funded projects and tenders. And at Euroheat and Power, he leads activities related to funding, grants, and access to finance. And he also supports policy work on European sustainable finance and infrastructure legislation relevant to district heating and cooling. So, Gabriela, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Laura, for this nice introduction, and good morning, everyone. As Laura already mentioned, I'll try in 10 minutes to give you at least an overview and a list of the main financing option we have to start from scratch, or even to expand or refurbish a district heating and cooling. We know it's quite a big challenge. So let's see if it's work. Okay, yeah, sorry. Okay, perfect. Okay, so probably something that you know really by heart. So heating and cooling is the largest share of Europe final energy demand. But yeah, the penetration of district heating and cooling is still far below what is recommended for 2050. So the goal is to get at least 55% of district heating share by 2050 in the heating and cooling sector in Europe. Today, we are, let's say, on average at a fraction of that. So this means one thing: scaling up district heating and cooling is not optional if we want to decarbonize the heating sector, but it's a structural requirement for Europe energy transition. Okay, so reaching this scale requires massive upfront capital. It's calculated that we need about 1.16 trillion by 2050. The costs are not evenly distributed, and we see very capital-intensive phases between 2026 and 2040, when most of the network expansion and construction will take place. So what matters, my message here, is that these investments are long-term, infrastructure type, with payback periods that often exceed 20 years. So this makes financing absolutely central. The good news is that member states are not starting from zero. So countries like France, Denmark, Netherlands, Germany, Scotland, and many others have already announced large national support scheme. Many are accelerating household connection, Others are focusing on replacing fossil-based heat with renewable and waste heat. But again, commitments alone are not enough. We need robust financing models behind every new system. So we're going to see what we have. Let's say, according to a recent study, despite progress, there is still a mismatch between available instruments and actual needs. Most European and national instruments focus on innovation or energy supply, but district heating sits at the intersection of infrastructure, energy, buildings, and municipal planning. This makes it dependent on instruments that are not always tailored for its complexity. So maybe let's start very quickly from the EU level. So we know that the EU budget provides quite a broad spectrum of opportunities across the project lifecycle, from Horizon Europe for research innovation, to the Innovation Fund for large demonstration, to the monetization and cohesion funds for infrastructure deployment. But the real challenge is blending these layers effectively, ensuring that grants, guarantees, loans, private capital work together instead of being used in isolation. Unfortunately, there's no time to go into detail of this program, but this is a nice, I'll say, overview at the EU level. Let's say the trend in terms of public funding tell us something quite important. District cooling, district heating and cooling is finally recognized as a strategic asset. You can see here from this graph. For example, funding for research innovation has grown dramatically in these last years. But innovation, of course, alone is not enough. We need scalable deployment funding and long-term capital structure. So this is a quite complicated but nice overview. So this roadmap helps a little bit to illustrate where each program fits along to the innovation cycle of the district heating and cooling project, from early research to market maturity. But maybe here I would like to focus more on one key message. The key message is that the valley of death is still particularly severe for district heating and cooling infrastructure. The transition from demo to the commercial rollout is where many projects stall due to risk perception, fragmented governance, or long-term permitting procedure. Let's go a little bit more now into detail. So probably this is the main slide of all the presentation. So when we talk about financing district heating and cooling, there is no one-size-fits-all model, of course. The right approach depends on the maturity of the promoter, the size of the project, local regulation, and risk appetite. So let me walk you through the main models here in a more human, simple way. So the first one, corporate finance, usually is the most traditional option. The utility or municipal company uses its balance sheets, its existing equity, and standard bank loans. This works very well when the company is solid and the project is an extension or upgrade of an existing network. Investors look at the company, not at the project. Secondly, project finance is different. Here, you create an SPV. It's an acronym for Special Purpose Vehicle. And the lenders look only at the project, or let's say not only, but mostly at the project's own cash flow. This model is more demanding, but also more powerful for large new networks. It can bring in institutional investor, but only if you have stable tariffs, long-term heat offtake, and regulatory certainty. Otherwise, it doesn't fly so much, this project. Thirdly, public-private models. This model gives you the best of both worlds. The municipality keeps strategic control, while the private partner brings capital, expertise, and operational capacity. So this approach is very useful when public authority wants to accelerate, but don't want to own 100% of the risk. Then, fourth, concession contracts go one step further about the PPS. So you let a private operator build and run the system for, let's say, 15, 40 years, let's say this is the average time, while you keep ownership of the assets. So this allows you to benefit from private sector efficiency, but it also requires strong regulatory oversight to ensure fair pricing. Then we have quite a new models called the ESCON and EPC model. Probably you know EPC stands for energy performance contracting, which are increasingly popular for heat pumps, optimization, and refurbishment of the network. Here, the ESCO takes the upfront risk and gets repaid through performance, through the energy saving, or through the energy produced. It can be a very elegant solution when municipalities don't have the money to invest directly. And finally, the new, say, one of the newest hybrid models combining DC heating and heat pumps, also along with the electrification trend we have in DC heating and cooling right now. So these are interesting because they introduce flexibility. Sometimes the customer owns the heat pump and the network operator simply optimizes its use. Sometimes the operator controls the heat pump and integrates it fully into its production plan. So this model allows DC heating to integrate renewable electricity more efficiently and offer more dynamic service. So just to resume, the message here is simple. We have many financing models, but the real challenge is choosing the right mix for each project. As I said, there's no one solution for everything. Maybe another very important message is that finance is the real bottleneck for DC heating and cooling project, not the technology. So if we look at district heating today, the technical solutions are not the problem, as we said. We know how to recover waste heat, how to integrate renewable, how to build low temperature networks, we just saw, and how to electrify heat efficiently. The real bottleneck is financing, or more precisely, the mismatch between what the sector needs and how current financing frameworks operate. So district heating and cooling projects are capital intensive, long-lived infrastructure that delivers system-level benefits, lower gas demand, higher energy security, integration of renewable. But these benefits sometimes aren't monetized properly in today's investment logic. So at the same time, investors face a fragmented regulatory landscape, limited standardization, and long permitting procedure. So what is the result? Quite simple. The sector is investable, but only a minority of projects manage to reach final close. If we want to reach, let's say, the recommended 20% market share by 2030 and the 55% by 2050, we need to shift financing from project by project to a more systemic, scalable, and predictable model. And that requires a much stronger alignment between public and private finance. So let's see which is the role, in my opinion, of public finance. Public finance has a very clear mission, not to replace private capital, but to make private capital possible. And that's a fundamental distinction. The first role is providing targeted grants. These are essential for parts of the network that will never generate a fully cost-reflective return. For example, new distribution pipelines in low-density area, or the switch from fossil boilers to renewable and waste heat. These transitions are necessary, but the business case sometimes alone wouldn't cover them. So the second role of public finance is risk sharing. Guarantees, personal tranches, insurance mechanism, or off-take guarantees can dramatically reduce the perceived risk of a project. They lower the cost of capital and make institutional investors more willing to participate. Without these tools, many projects remain technically viable, but financially unattractive. And the third role is to support early stage development. This is very important. This is one of the biggest blind spots in this heating and cooling world. Before you even build a meter of pipeline, you need permitting, feasibility studies, engineering, environmental assessment, coordination with industry, connection strategy. All these cost money. And it's often money that municipalities don't have. So projects die before they are even born. I don't want to give a very pessimistic message. I'm just saying that we need early stage development support for municipalities, not just like technical infrastructure or money. So if we want private capital to come in a scale, public finance must take the first risks so the investor can take the second, so the money one. So what investor really need. So from the perspective of an investor, this heating is attractive, we just said. It offers stable long-term cash flow, local demand, and proven technology, but only if the project context is right. So what investors tell us is consistent across Europe. They need three main conditions. Predictability, so stable regulation, cost-reflective tariff, and long-term heat planning, as we said in the first presentation, aligned with national decarbonization strategies. Then we need scale and aggregation. So most DC heating and cooling projects are simply too small to justify transaction cost. We need aggregation models, investment platform, and multi-project frameworks to create portfolio rather than one-off assets. And thirdly, standardization, especially in contracting. No investor wants to renegotiate a different heat supply agreement, a different permitting approach, or a different risk allocation in every city. So meeting these needs doesn't require inventing the wheel, as we hear so many times, but aligning public policy, local authorities, and utilities around a more investment-friendly model. So, my last slide. Looking ahead, we really want to scale this heating and cooling, we said. We need financing model that works not just for one project, but for the entire pipelines of projects. So blended finance is the first pillar, in my opinion. This means combining grants, EIB, so European Investment Bank, or InvestEU guarantees, private capital into one structured approach. When you blend instruments, you can reduce the overall cost of capital and make large projects viable. It's basically using public money to make private investment easier and cheaper, as we just said before. Then, our dream in Euratom Power, a heat funds, a dedicated heat funds could be a second pillar. These are dedicated funds that provide predictable multi-year support, such as the Fonds Chaleur in France or the heat fund in Germany. They give utilities and municipalities the ability to plan beyond a single grant call. So a heat fund can be revolving, meaning money from repayment goes back into new projects. This creates a long-term virtuous circle. And then, as just already said, the third pillar is standardization. This may sound boring, but it's crucial. If every project has different contracts, different permitting processes, different risk allocation model, then every project becomes a prototype, expensive, slow, and unpredictable. If we standardize these elements, we reduce transaction cost and make it easier to create investment portfolio. And the fourth pillar is ESCO-driven models. These are already common in energy efficiency, but they can also support DC heating and cooling through heat pumps, storage, decentralized asset, or smaller networks. ESCO can take on the upfront investment, operate the assets, and deliver heat as a service. This is an attractive solution for municipalities with limited financial capacity. So, together, this model moves us away from financing one project at a time and toward building a fully scalable DC heating and cooling market. So, in conclusion, thank you. So, basically, financing DC heating and cooling is about aligning public support, private capital, and regulatory stability. Not just funding individual projects, but building a long-term investment ecosystem capable of delivering thousands of kilometers of new networks across Europe. If we get the financing right, the technology and the business model will follow, and Europe finally can deliver affordable, renewable, and efficient heat at scale. Thank you for the attention.
Thank you so much, Gabriele, for bringing up this critical topic to today's webinar. And also, thank you very much for highlighting once again the urgent need to develop new district heating and cooling networks, because that's why we are also here today joining this webinar. And our final topic brings us to communication and public acceptance, which is an area very frequently underestimated, but crucial for success, because even the best design and well-funded DHC project can struggle if citizens do not understand or trust the system. And to help cities navigate this, Kadri Inselberg will share concrete examples of media campaigns that have successfully presented district heating as a safe, stable, and future-proof solution. And Kadri is a communication manager at Utilitas, Estonia's largest renewable energy producer, specializing in the energy transition, and she leads communications and supports the Estonian Wind Power Association. So please, Kadri, tell us, how can we work on this aspect, and how can we improve public acceptance?
Yes, hello. Thank you for all the presentations. Now you can imagine that you already have a plan. You have chosen the technology. You have even maybe the financing, and then people and on the streets and in the town halls are asking why. Why should we switch to district heating? It's not a very easy service to communicate, actually. We have done it for a long time. I'm from Estonia, so Estonia has had district heating for over 70 years. My company is Utilitas. It's a privately owned company. We offer district heating services in 10 cities, nine in Estonia and one in Latvia. And we also are very active in green electricity production, also in all of the Baltic states. But basically, district heating started in Tallinn in 70 years ago, and it was not a voluntary process. So there was no democracy, and there were no media campaigns, I'm quite sure. But nowadays, the district heating has really changed. We do have district heating areas in place in the cities. So you basically, if you are building a new house or you are choosing the heating system, you have to choose district heating if you don't have any better solution in the efficiency wise. And so basically nowadays, district heating is not a monopoly anymore. We do have heat pump systems, which can be chosen or also, and we have to compete nowadays for every new house. And after the energy crisis, we have been expanding our networks, and each year more than 100 new buildings are connected to the grid. So we are really expanding the grids and also adding new buildings. I think basically, like, how do you speak about district heating? We have had it for 70 years, but a lot of people have forgotten it even existed because it's an invisible service, so to say. If you ask from people living in big houses, they even don't know how their buildings are heated because there's no particular problems. Everything is the water is warm, the rooms are hot, so they don't really care. So as we have competition, so to say, and we have a good regulation in place which we want to keep, then we feel the need to communicate and speak about district heating. And we say it's efficient and environmentally friendly, and it's the best urban energy, basically in intensely populated cities. And it's very it works on the coldest of the days, and regarding the affordability, it is important to say that the more consumers there are in the district heating network, the more affordable the service is, both for the individual and the society. So yeah, we basically say it's a safe choice. And free this headline messages are that district heating is convenient and safe, and because it ensures clean air, it's always there, and it's very safe because the heat is not produced in the building. So district heating is affordable. I know for the new markets, this might be a tricky one, as we already have a lot of clients. Of course, the prices are stable, but For example, I would assume that if I wanted to start a new district heating area, I would say that, okay, the price in the beginning is this, but if we have like, I don't know, 200 buildings, then the price will be this, or if we have thousands, then the price would be this. So it's very important to speak about the scalability and the shared network. So in Estonia, the price has been very stable, and it was very visible during the energy crisis, where district heating prices were, of course, also rose, but they were more stable than the alternatives. And the price of district heating is regulated in Estonia, so it's strictly cost-based. And over the past decade, district heating using clean energy has become more affordable, actually, as the cost of district heating has increased less than people's incomes and the general price level. And of course, there are low additional costs. And district heating is future-proof because we can produce heat. We can switch the way we produce heat. We are doing that in Estonia, and so yeah, basically I will show you also the campaigns. To give you the context, in 2008, we used only fossil fuels, natural gas in our network, and in 10 years, we were already over 50% renewable. So we saw that we have to communicate that to also our clients and the wider audience. And we said that the campaign, the main message is the modern hero. So we say that district heating client saves nature every day. So this was 1 year before EU's Green Deal was announced, and the green topics sold better than today. 2020, we used the message, we love four seasons, and the district heating customers help preserve them. So we went on the forefront of the climate issue. We are, even last year, we were named the greenest company or most sustainable company in Estonia. So we are really talking about how environmentally friendly district heating is. And the last one this year, we can say that the last Eurobarometer survey showed that Estonians are the most climate skeptic in European Union. So we have scaled back on the climate messages, and we just say that district heating is the best urban energy. We are talking about affordability, scalability, about it's always there, and all this kind of stuff. But all the campaigns have been traditional campaigns, TV, outdoors, radio stations. So yeah, but I'm here for questions if we have any time. That's it, basically. Thank you.
Many thanks, Kadri, for this very interesting presentation. And this was also the last presentation for today. So I also want to thank you to all of you, all the speakers, once again, for all these very insightful presentations. And I see that there are no questions actually from our audience. So I assume that everything was rather clear and straight to the point. So yeah, and also looking at the time, we are coming to the end of the webinar. But before I close the webinar, I just wanted to remind you once again that we have a replication hub of the Support DHC project. Maybe if we could go back, yes, so that participants can see the QR codes and also the links. So I invite you to visit the replication hub to check the tools and reports that we produce within the Support DHC project. And also I invite you to follow the Support DHC project through the webpage supportdhc.eu. as well as on LinkedIn. We use the DHC Plus platform LinkedIn account to communicate the news from the project using the Support DHC hashtag. And finally, we can go to the next slide. And I wanted to remind you of the second training webinar we are organizing on 15th of December. And as mentioned earlier, this webinar will focus rather on decarbonization strategies of existing district heating networks. So if you are interested, don't hesitate to register also for this one. So once again, thank you very much to all the presenters as well as participants for joining this webinar. And I really hope you find the information that was shared today useful. And yeah, I want to wish you a very good day and goodbye.